The celebration following the successful harvesting of the crops and the end of the growing season is common to people around the world. People show their gratitude for the crops and seek good omens about the future harvest. Many kinds of magic have been used in seeking a good harvest. The yearly cycle has defined the lives of people in agricultural societies. People have keenly observed the weather and changing seasons as both directly impact their livelihoods. The solar year consists of 4 seasons. In the calendar year, this is marked by summer and winter solstice and autumn and spring equinox. The lunar calendar follows the phases of the moon and divides the year into 12 months. Beginning the year in January, which is now commonplace in many countries, is an old churchly habit. In the earlier times, the year began in the late autumn when the grains had been threshed and the autumn slaughter was over. The year changed at Kekri, the harvest festival. The Finnish Kekri festival has many cousins around the globe. All these festivals share common features that they are celebrated in late autumn. Samhain was a Celtic festival for celebrating the harvest and start of a new year. In the Christian tradition, people remember deceased members of the community by celebrating All Saints' Day around the same time as Samhain and Kekri. The merging of these traditions associated with Samhain and All Saints' Day gave birth to the Halloween festival among the immigrants to the United States. In Mexico, people celebrate Dia de Muertos, which is a combination of the Christian All Saints' Day tradition and Mesoamerican indigenous traditions. When the harvesting of the crops had been completed, it was time for Kekri. The cattle were brought to the barn from the pastures, beer was brewed, and sausages were made. The time between St. Michael's Day at the end of September and All Saints' Day at the beginning of November was a suitable time for celebrating Kekri. People ate well from the bounty of the new harvest, in addition to their own family members and servants. Visitors were also treated well. People believed that unchecked gluttony would predict a good crop year for the following year. It would have been a bad omen if the food had run out in the middle of festivities. People ate sausages, lamb, turnips, porridge, and freshly bread at the Kekri table. They had beer and spirits to drink. Normal codes of conduct were not in place during the Kekri festival. People played games, told stories, foretold omens, and practiced magic. Young people dressed up as Kekri creatures and wandered from house to house, begging for food and drink. If there was no food, and especially no drinks, they threatened to rip the fireplace out of the house. The stretch of time between the ends of the solar and lunar years was about 12 days. It was a time between 2 years. It was considered a perilous time because the line between this world and the next world was especially thin. People's ancestors moved about freely during that time. They came to check on the farm, and they required hospitality. A sauna was heated up for them. While the spirits were bathing, a celebratory dinner was prepared for them. The restless dead were defended off by burning bonfires. Omens and magic were a part of a daily activity during this stretch of time. People predicted the weather and other occurrences for the coming year. Most everyday work was prohibited. Only quiet and clean jobs were allowed. The interpretation of omens has later become a part of the tradition of the New Year celebration. Fire has long been a prerequisite of life. It has meant protection and company, and it has provided warmth during the long winter. People built bonfires during the Kekri festival. Carving and burning turnip lanterns is a tradition practiced during showering. At Halloween, people bring light into the darkness using pumpkin lanterns. We remember the deceased with candles on All Saints' Day. Many different food plants are now cultivated around the globe. Barley and wheat were some of the first plants that people started to cultivate. Rice is cultivated in over 100 countries. People in Bali celebrate a month-long festival for the goddess of rice, during which time rituals are held to ward off evil spirits. Temples have also been constructed for the rice gods, for example, on the island of Java. Corn came to Europe from present-day Mexico with Columbus. Corn does not grow automatically, so people must select the best seeds to plant for the following year's crop. In the United States, people celebrate harvest festivals that include competitions for the largest corn cob of the year. In Bolivia, people celebrate by dancing and playing music around the piles of corn. Yams are an important food plant in Asia, Africa, the Pacific Islands, and the Americas. Ikore in Nigeria is a celebration of the yam harvest. It is celebrated in the village community or with family and friends, including ancestors. The first bread made from the new crop was baked during the full moon around the time of the autumn equinox. Seed bread was stored in a bin in the granary. During the Christmas holidays, the loaf was put on display on the dining table, but it was not eaten until the spring. On the first day of field work, one piece was put into the cob, and another was given to the animal helping sow the seeds. People did this to guarantee a good crop the following season. Grain dollies embodied the power of growth. A grain dolly was made of the last sheaf gathering at the end of the sowing season. The dolly could be kept until the next season to grant a good crop. In England, the grain dolly was dressed in female clothing and it was given a seat of honor at the banquet table. After eating, it was placed in the middle of the room and people danced around it. Indigenous people in the Americas made faceless dollies out of dried corn ears. Wandering souls could not settle inside dollies that did not have eyes. In Asia, during the rice harvest, people made small rice dolls to bring good luck and protection them against evil spirits. The apple is the fruit of legends and myths. Celtic folklore mentions apple trees. The Celts may have been the first people to cultivate apple trees in Europe. In August, Eastern Slavic people celebrate the apple festival of the Savior. The origins of the festival date to pre-Christian Ukraine. The ripening of apples is celebrated as a festival around the world, and they are used for a variety of dishes, including baked goods and cider. The turnip is one of our oldest food plants. The slash and burn method was used to cultivate turnips in eastern Finland, whereas in Ostrobothnia, turnips were successfully cultivated in peat bogs. In Sava, turnips were sown even 3 times a year. The first harvest was eaten during the summer, and the turnips intended for seed production were set aside at that time. During the second harvest, turnips were stored in a pit for later use. The third harvest, turnips were eaten during the late autumn and early winter. The pumpkin is originally from the southern part of North America, from the border area between the United States and Mexico. The cultivation of pumpkins, corn, and beans side by side formed a basis of a food chain dating back thousands of years among the indigenous people of the area. Pumpkins spread to North Europe in the Middle Ages. Halloween is based off the Celtic harvest festival, Samhain, which traveled with Irish immigrants to North America. The day before All Saints' Day, the day honoring saints and martyrs, was called All Hallows' Eve, which over time became shortened to Halloween. In North America, the turnip lanterns became pumpkin lanterns. Halloween is also known as the Pumpkin Festival. Wearing costumes is a part of celebrating Halloween. Nowadays, characters from horror movies and popular literature are a part of the imagery of Halloween. Ghosts, witches, black cats, and bats have become common children's costumes. Even in Finland, many children go around from house to house trick-or-treating. The Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos, is a Mexican memorial day for the deceased. It has blended the traditions of Mesoamerican indigenous peoples and Christian All Saints' Day. Aztec and Mayan art contain many skull motifs, which still form a conspicuous part of the modern-day Dia de Muertos. Remembering and honoring one's ancestors is a characteristic of the festival. People place food and drink on a home altar and consume it only after the dead have first had their share. The most important festival foods include bread for the dead and decorated sugar candy skulls, which represents the souls of the deceased. Harvest festivals are living traditions around the world. Enjoying the harvest together with others, including the dead, is common to all festivals. Fun, rituals, games, and costumes are part of the harvest festivals. Kekri, too, is celebrated by getting together for good food, fun, and games. There are no strict rules and formalities when celebrating Kekri. Everyone can create a Kekri to their own liking.